Okay, tonight's shir is sponsored by the Mermelstein family in honor of the yahrzeit of Jack's mother, Manya Bas Gitzel Leib. It's Anne's mother? Oh. In honor of Anne's mother, Manya Bas Gitzel Leib, the Neshama Shavan Aliyah. And also sponsored by the Goldschmidt family in honor of Sid's grandfather, Hachaver Moshe Yehuda ben Hachaver Yitzchak. These words of Divrei Torah, Mirz Hashem, should be a schus le'iloi nishmasam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. So last year, I said that we were going to skip to skip to the Gemara Chavav and Beis as an agada to hear fascinating story about Sancheiriv Kedai to look at about Kesher Rishayim Einam and Aminyan, that whenever the Rebbeinu Shalom refers to a group, he doesn't include Rishayim in that group. That's not considered a Kesher. It's an interesting Gemara, but we're going to try to move on. I wanted to move on to the Gemara, a lot to talk about on Chavavim and Beis. So the end of this Agadik, the Gemara is talking about Torah, that's called Toshia. And then the Gemara says as follows, a new Gemara, Amar Ula. So look at this Gemara. We're really going to speak about the next Gemara, but I wanted to just bring out this idea, which I thought was fascinating. The Gemara says Amar Ula. It's, if you go to the wide lines, so it's 5 lines up from the wide lines. Amar Ula is 2 words from the end of the line. Amar Ula. Machshava mo'eles afilu l'divrei Torah. So Rashi says machshava mo'eles. What is this? It's a strange phrase, machshava mo'eles. Machshava works with what? So machshava is actually a negative point. Machshava, zok Rashi, dagos halev al mezoinosav shel adam. When a person is so concerned about where the next paycheck is coming from, he's so concerned. Mo'eles, it's not a positive thing. It's mahanya l'shakeach limudo. It really makes a person not able to focus on his learning, and he forgets everything that he learns. But listen to what the Gemara goes on to say. So the Gemara says, how do you know? Amar ula machshava mo'eles afilu divrei Torah. It works even to affect divrei Torah. Shene'emar meifer machshavos arumim veloise asena yedeim toshia. As the pasuk says, again, that's why the Gemara is bringing this down. Toshia is referring to Torah, that the machshavas of Arumim eradicates its mayfair, the Toshia, it's made for the Divrei Torah, and you don't have the ability to retain the Torah. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, imasukin lishma, but if a person learns lishma, eina mo'eles, then it won't allow you to forget. Shenemar, Rabus machsheves belev ish, va'atzos Hashem hisakum. What's atzos Hashem hisakum? Eitzah sheyesh bo dvar Hashem hisakum la'olam. If you have a machshava and eitzah sheyesh bo Hashem, what does that mean? It means machshava 4. Let's think about Kodesh Baruch Hu. Machshava lishma, Torah lishma. Then that Torah will be miskayim. That Torah will remain. That Torah will remain. So listen to this fascinating Rashi. Mefer machshavas arumim, when the Torah is not lishma, when the Torah is with other machshavas, other daigas, so it's not going to work. Listen to what Rashi says. Noisim lehem mazonos umevato machshavas milivam shelo yehu meinuchin alsan lasos toshia lishna achrina machshava sha'adam mechashev kach v'kach eseh kach v'kach tale biyadeh. If a person plans out, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what's going to happen, mo'eles lahashbis hadavar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes it that it can't. That's not what's going to happen. She'ein machshavaso miskayemes. It's not going to be. Both in the world of Parnasa, a person thinks, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what's going to happen, and this is how I'm going to make the money here, and this is what it's going to be. HaKadosh Baruch Hu built into the Teva, make sure that doesn't happen. Why? So that you shouldn't think, machshava mo'eles, both in the world of Teva, but then Rashi says, and even in the world of Dvar Torah. Afilu Dvar Torah. Listen to this. Ad yoim ploini esayim kach v'kach mesechtes. I couldn't believe this Rashi. We think we got to get a plan. We got to decide when are we going to finish. When are we going to be the end? This is the mucker for our shir. We're going so slow. Baruch Hashem. 3 years. We're still in Sunday. When are we going to finish? When are we going to be done? Rashi says no. Rashi says no, and the Meiri explains. I'll tell you why. It's a fascinating idea. He says because if a person is only goal oriented when it comes to learning, so you know what? Sometimes a person's going to say, "Oh yeah, I'll finish the Masechta. I'll just double up next week, and then I'll finish the Masechta." And then it's gonna turn into a Talmud Torah of Likasha Efna Eshna. When I have the opportunity, I'll learn there. It's all about finishing the goal. Kisha Efna Al Shayim Masechta Zu ve'Masechta Zu. No, what happened to V'Hagisa Bo Yom V'Layla? What happened to the learning of today? What happened? It's not just about finishing the blot. It's not just about covering the ground. It's about actually understanding. It's about Torah Lishma. So it's not necessarily the right approach to always. Again, you have to have a balance because in chinuch we want to set goals, and without goals, you also have the opposite extreme. If a person never sets goals, so what's the problem? So I can do this, I can do that. We want to set goals, but if it becomes too much, too goal oriented, so then that could be a problem as well. It's fascinating. Rashi didn't have to do that. What?
Rashi doesn't hold the daf yomi.
Right.
Daf yomi is a double-edged sword. If it's a fast stop, then you're done in 20 minutes.
Right.
So it's the same idea.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. But it also really has its positives also because it makes sure that achrayus and yesh v'yesh. You know, I heard from Rabbi Glasser. Rabbi Glasser said today. He said I was Messiah, the first daf in every Masechta in Shas. So yeah. So machshava moelas afilu teider. Let's see the top taisis. Perish Riva, the top taisis. Daigas leva adam amazon elsov mahani l'shakeach mimenu kol shar machshavas. A person's his mind is saturated with what? With thinking about where the next bill is coming from. We all know this. It's true. And you can't focus. Af machshavas divrei Torah. You can't focus. Shenemar meifer machshavas arum. V'koya noisin mater al pnei haaretz. And the pasuk is talking about noisin mater. Yesh mefarshim, but then Tosfos says a separate pshat. Moeles mishakeres v'loy titzlach. Kleimerim adam choyshev hein lahasher hein gam l'divrei Torah lo yaspik ella k'sha'asa l'shma kedemasik. Just like Rashi said that other pshat as well, that alternative pshat. But I want to introduce to you a new pshat, a pshat of the Maharsha. But I think this Maharsha needs a little bit of akdama because this Maharsha is not only a beautiful pshat, but I think this Maharsha answers an unbelievable kasha that is addressed in the world of Birkas HaTorah. Yeah, so Machshava Moyel. So before we do the Maharsha, so let's see the following shaila. If you open up in Birkas HaTorah, in Siman Mem Zayin, so the Machaber Paskins. The Mechaber Paskins in Sif Dalid. Ha-mehar b'divrei Torah eino tzarech levarich. What happens if a person wakes up in the morning and he wants to think about divrei Torah? He wants to just think about divrei Torah. So the Mechaber says if you're maharer, you don't need to make a Birkas HaTorah. It's not 100% clear if the Mechaber means, okay, and therefore I'm allowed to think about Divrei Torah, or just if I happen to think about Divrei Torah, do I have to make a bracha or not? It's not entirely clear in the Mechaber. It's a dian in the poskim. So the Vilna Gaon, the Bir Agra, here disagrees. And he says two questions. Number one, he says, what do you mean? He says, V'hagisa bo yom v'layla. Torah is about higayon. Torah is about contemplating, about thinking. How could you argue that hearer doesn't need Divrei Torah? That is what Divrei Torah is. It's about thinking. It's about cracking your head. It's about trying to analyze. But then the Vilna Gaon asks another question. The Vilna Gaon says, and the Mechaber, you are not consistent. Says the Vilna Gaon, look at what you said in Sif Gimel, a line above. The Mechaber says, HaKoisiv b'divrei Torah, Afal pi she'eino kaira tzarech levarach. So what's the Vilna Gaon's kasha? Vilna Gaon's kasha is, why did you say HaMahara b'divrei Torah doesn't need to make a bracha? If you think about divrei Torah, you don't need to make a bracha, because you hold Hirur Lav Kedibur Dami. Because you hold, if all you're doing is thinking about it, and you're not speaking about it, so then that's not Dibur, and that's not requiring of a Birkas HaTorah. So then why by Ksiva, where you're also not speaking, did you say that you have to make a Birkas HaTorah? That's the Goin's Kasha, and that's the Mishabura brings down that the Vilna Gaon, the Biur Agra, disagreed with the Mechaber, and he held that here also needs to make a Birkas HaTorah. Machlokes, the Mechaber, the Beis Yosef, and the Vilna Gaon and the Gra. So the question is, how does the Mechaber get out of these questions? So first of all, the second Kasha of the Vilna Gaon about Ksiva is not necessarily such a difficult Kasha. There is a tshuva in the first chelek in Tshuvas Reb Kiva Eger. We have it over here. This was a tshuva, a fascinating tshuva. This tshuva was written to Reb Kiva Eger by his uncle, and the tshuva begins discussing. It's Inyana Diyama. It's discussing what they were talking about at the chasana that his uncle was very involved with, and he speaks at the beginning, Avidna Yom Etavel Rabbanan. This was written at Reb Kiva Eger's chasana, at the actual chasana that Rabbi Wolf Eger was very much involved with, because Reb Kiva Eger lost a parent, and that's how he begins the tshuva that we're speaking about, how unbelievable, and all the gedolim that are here. Avinu Yom Atam LeRabbanan Hayom Yom Hamugbol LeFerncha Ben Achoisi Chavivi Klovavi Asher Akava Ki Yimale Hayom Kashanoi. You read the beginning of the tshuva. He's speaking about unbelievable chasana, and we're all here, and we're missing, your mother who died young, and he was clearly involved in the chasana and involved in bringing him up. And then he says, and I'm writing this tshuva now about the conversation that we had at the table. This was the chasana, and that's what the chasanas were about tshuvas, written mamish at the table of the following issue. What happens if a person wrote out Sfiras HaOmer tonight? He wrote out Sfiras HaOmer. So can he still count with a bracha? Was he yotzei? And the opposite is, what happens if you have a person who's not able to use his vocal cords, and he doesn't have the ability to enunciate and count bepeh? This happens. People, these shilos come up, not always in Sfiras HaOmer. Sometimes I had a shiloh person ask me in terms of Kriya Shema, what does he do? But the doctor says, with this surgery, you're not allowed to use your vocal cords. So what about using Ksiva? What about using Ksiva for Sfiras HaOmer? So the uncle of Reb Kiva Eger writes this tshuva. This was the discussion at the table at the chasana, and he's bringing rayas. And he ultimately thinks that a person was not yotzei if all he did was he wrote it, because he says that Chazal, the Rishonim tell us that Chazal didn't institute a bracha on biur chametz, on bittul chametz. I'm sorry. So they ask, why didn't Chazal institute a bracha on bittul chametz? So that's what the Rishonim say. Some of the Rishonim say you don't make a bracha. That's something that's davar atali belev, and bittul is tali belev. So therefore, you don't make a bracha on that. So if they instituted a bracha on Sfiras HaOmer, so it obviously means that you have to enunciate it. You have to be medaber it. So that's what Rav Wolf Eger wrote this tshuva. But then he asks on himself. He says, but what are you going to do with Birkas HaTorah? What are you going to do with Birkas HaTorah? Because Birkas HaTorah, the Mechaber says that if you write down the Torah, if you write Ksiva, then you are Yotzei. So you see that Ksiva is something that's ra'i for a bracha. So isn't that a kasha on my whole analysis? And how can I say by Sfiras HaOmer that you're not Yotzei? Yeah.
Maybe because it says Kisvu Lachem Es Shira Azos.
Oh.
So from that, it's for Lamdos.
Beautiful. So wait, which word are you saying? You're saying because of Kisvu Lachem or because of Lambda?
No, because Kisvu is part of Talmud Torah.
Why?
Because Kisvu is to be Malamed.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent. So he says here, he quotes from the Shev Yaakov, a beautiful vart. It's very connected to this vart. So he says, don't ask me from Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah, the bracha is exactly what Abe said. Talmud Torah is about perpetuating the Torah. Talmud Torah is ulamdas b'nei Yisrael, of shinantin levanecha. That's the purpose of Talmud Torah. Memela, if you do a b'ksiva, you could also accomplish that. So you have chidushay Torah, so they'll take it off the shelf. So what? You didn't say it, bepeh. But now you wrote it down, so now it's a perpetual entity. It's now going to pass down from generations to generations. That's what Talmud Torah is about. Memela, if you make a Birkas HaTorah and you're going to learn it, you're going to be selfish and say, this is my Torah, and I'm not going to share Torah. It's going to be Lilmod, Jaloi Amanas Lalami. You're not going to share your Torah. According to this tshuva, you shouldn't have made Birkas HaTorah. You shouldn't have blessed. The whole purpose of Torah is to learn with others, to share, is to get involved, other people involved, the Lambda. So Memela, he says that that's something that can be Mekayim, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, v'limadtem es b'neichem, so Memela, you have no kasha from Ksiva Kediv. Reb Kiva Eger happens to argue, I don't want to get too off topic, Reb Kiva Eger writes, there's a few tshuvas, there's Rav Zev Wolf, then Reb Kiva Eger after Sheva Brachas, he says, I have a few minutes right now, but there's still a lot of people around. I don't know, he says there are a lot of ponim chadoshos here. I'm not sure if that meant, it seems like, I wasn't sure if that was during Sheva Brachas of ponim chadoshos, or he just meant there are a lot of important people in town. So he says, Chachmei v'nechbadi ayir. So I don't have a lot of time, but I'm just going to quickly answer all of your rayas. And he disagreed entirely with his uncle, and he thought Ksiva is Kedibur, and he thought all the rayas that it's not Kedibur are not correct. And he says, and what's the kasha from Birkas HaTorah? He says, yeah, if you're just Mahar, the Machaber says, and you just think about Torah, so the Machaber says, don't make a bracha. The Machaber said what? That Ksiva you should make a bracha? That's because what? You make a bracha when you do an action. So instead of speaking, you acted, you wrote. But there was a Maisa mitzvah there. So why can't you say that? That's why the Mechaber says, such a Pashat Svar, Reb Kiva Eger says, he says, I didn't even understand, what you guys were talking about at my wedding. Maybe you should have paid attention to the wedding. So he says that over there you did a Maisa, so therefore you should say Birkas HaTorah. Okay, it's an interesting debate. Others say a different pshat by Birkas HaTorah, but it has ramifications legabe the shaila that it does come up about Ksiva Kedibur. I'm being mekatzer. There's a few more rayas about the issue of Ksiva, about Eidim sending in their Eidus, about the Gemara saying that that's not acceptable because of mipiem v'loy mipik savam. So what do you do with that? Is that a raya yes, a raya not? But that's the way Reb Kiva Eger discusses, responds to his uncle about that issue.
What about by the Yavam, right, he has to be on Sabiyamra and she can't say, what if she's a mute?
Right.
What are the shaylas?
Yes, so actually, it's funny. The tshuva goes on to discuss not that case, but I think it would be equally applicable about an Elam that the Mishnah says by Mafresh Truma that he doesn't have the ability to make a bracha about being Mafresh Truma, like the Gemara's in Brachas and the Mishnah's in Trumas that discuss that thing. So Reb Kiva Eger says, yeah, he would have been Yotzei, and the Gemara was just saying that he's not going to because they want to figure out an option to be Yotzei lechatchila sheb lechatchila. And in Elam, even if he writes it, it's still not being mashmiya la'ozno, so it's not being makayim the din lechatchila. But in Echanami, Reb Kiva Eger assumes that would have been good b'di eved. So that's part of what the discussion there over there is. So in terms of the other kasha, about the essential kasha of whether or not you should make a bracha, it says to the Vilna Gaon, how could you say hear her is not Torah? Of course you need your head. So I think the answer to that, there could be a different approach. It's true. You're involved in Talmud Torah when you're being Mahara in Torah. But the bracha of Birkas HaTorah is the lasik b'divrei Torah, is the asik HaTorah. That's bringing Torah into a new darga. Yeah, there could be higayon. A person could contemplate, a person could think about divrei Torah. But if a person doesn't get involved and he doesn't enunciate, so then the Torah is not on the highest level. It's not the full-fledged kiyum mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and on that, Chazal weren't metakein Birkas HaTorah. And that's why in the bracha we say lasoik b'divrei Torah, that it should be his askus of Torah, that you should be medaber in the Torah, and it shouldn't just be random thoughts in your head. perhaps Maharal suggests such a pshat. Rabbi Vadia says such a pshat when it comes to Birkas HaTorah. And then mainly you're saying that there's a new level of Talmud Torah, that is the answer to the Mechaber. Not that you're not yotzei the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but on Birkas HaTorah was nitkan, was established on the highest level of Talmud Torah, the real Iker Talmud Torah, which is the Hesaskus of Talmud Torah, which includes Dibor and not actually expressing it to and not leaving it as in the thought process in the recess of one's mind.
I think it's being brought also in Elvin. I think in Bet and in Gimel.
That what?
That when you learn,
That you should express it. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. 100%.
It's the way that you remember. Otherwise, you don't.
Right.
You
Exactly.
totally forget.
Exactly. So beautiful. So listen to what the Maharsha says. So now let's get back. Why are we talking about this? So the Gemara says machshava ma'elis. Sometimes if you're in the world of machshava, so it's ma'elis, it has an effect, an impact on your divrei Torah that it makes you forget the Talmud Torah. So Rashi learned and Tosfos learned it was certain machshavas, either distractions, either daigus, or plans. You're going to plan. It's not good. That's not going to be good for the world of Torah. Listen to what the Maharsha says. A totally different pshat, but a fascinating pshat. And I think it's a riot to the pshat that we're saying, to the yishuv for the mechaber, to the answer of the mechaber of Birkas HaTorah. Listen to what the Maharsha says. Ayin Perish Rashi v'Tosfos. V'oidish Shleimer, an additional pshat, da'afilu dvar Torah, she'ikara b'machshavas halev, even dvar Torah that he's being maskim, like the goyin, that you need machshavas halev, you need to contemplate, you need to use your thought process. Ma'eles v'loisagi le'lilmoid oisa b'machshava belvad. Ele tzorich gam ken limigarse bepeh. Kedamrinan be'alma da'akima tzvosov avektsas ma'isa, like we hold, la'alocha Rabbi Yochanan says that you can get punished for what? For dibur. Akima tzvosov is enough of a ma'isa that you can, even if you just loisachsim b'obadei, if you did akima befiv, you caused an ox to get muzzled just by calling it out. Rabbi Yochanan says that also is considered a ma'isa. Akima tzvosov. So you need to make sure that the Torah is not just abstract. The Torah is not just something in your head. The Torah is not something that's not physical. It should be with an akima svasov. But it's not just a tactic. It's ma'eles. V'zeh shekasav meifir machshavas arumim aloy meid Torah b'machshava ba'alma. Meifir u'mishtakachas mimenu. He didn't make it a mitzias. V'loy seyasena shaloi tove ha'Torah lidei ma'isa kiyim b'dibur. So Memela, we have a beautiful raya from a Gemara, according to the Maharsha's pshat, to this additional pshat of the Maharal, of Rabbi Vadia Yosef, to explain the Mechaber. Not that Talmud Torah doesn't need machshava. Not, of course, Higayon is necessary, but it's not the full-fledged Talmud Torah. That's not what the bracha of Lasik B'Torah was established on. The real Talmud Torah, the Talmud Torah that is Niskayim, that exists, is in a Talmud Torah with a Maisa, with Akima Svasov, like Rabbi Yochanan says, and therefore that will last. So I heard that Rabbi Vadia once said on this Shiloh, I heard on a shir once, that Rabbi Vadia, Rabbi Radinsky, when someone once sent me this shir, he said it as a yahrzeit shir for Rabbi Vadia, that he once spoke to Rabbi Vadia about this Shiloh, about the Mechaber and the Gra, and Rabbi Vadia responded to Rabbi Radinsky about this idea that Avada, the highest level of Torah, is when you're going to speak about it, and that's the answer to the Mechaber, to the Gaon's Kasha. But then Rabbi Vadia said the following, this is fascinating. He says, and I'm mishtoimeh. I can't understand that the people are learning the treasures of the Torah, and they're not going to speak it out. They're not going to say it. It's just going to be a thought. Rabbi Vadia couldn't understand someone who was so davuk to the Torah, not to enunciate the words of the Torah. It's something that's so mistaber that it should be a mitzias, that it should come to life, that it should be real, that it should be palpable, it should be with akimas vasayim. But yehei mashi yehei, we have l'chayra, a Gemara over here that could be a raya to this big question on the Birkas HaTorah, issue, and we just dealt with something in Yana D'Yoyma, legabe the Sfiras HaOmer B'Ksav. Yeah.
What if you have to be mevarech bracha of the Torah, but if you don't understand the word of Torah, you still have to make the bracha. So it has nothing to do with it.
Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Balatanya is a famous Balatanya. The Balatanya makes a distinction between Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh.
Torah Shebechsav, you still have to make the bracha, even though you don't have any higayon.
Torah Shebechsav.
Yeah.
Right.
Why? Because
So he writes there that there's a chashivas of Torah Shebechsav in its own, independent of Higayim. Yeah. And that's why you could be Yotze with Torah Shebechsav certain things even if a person doesn't understand, because there's an independent reality to those.
For the bracha, it has to be B'Lashon Kodesh, or it could be Torah Shebechsav reading in English for the bracha.
You're saying for that Balatanya.
Right. So you would
I would assume it would have to be B'Lashon HaKodesh, yeah.
Whereas Birkas HaTorah on Torah Shabbat could be any language.
Sure, for sure, but it needs Higayim. It needs understanding, yeah. Yeah. So then the Gemara goes on, Amar of Yehuda Emasai. So the Gemara is going back on the Mishnah that we had a while ago. The Gemara was discussing all of the list of the Psulim and the Rabbanan in the Mishnah, the Psulei Edus. And then the Gemara said, Amar of Yehuda Emasai bizman she'ein lahen umnus elahu, aval yesh lahen umnus shaloihu ksherin. So with this we discussed at great length the machlokes whether or not Rav Yehuda was arguing with the Tanakama or was he adding on to the Tanakama. Whatever it is, whether he's arguing or not, Rav Yehuda is clearly telling us that the issue of a mesachik b'kobya is only in a situation where he doesn't have another job. But if he has another job, so then he's A-okay, which obviously is implying that the issue is not mesachik b'kobya, but it's rather an issue of enos suko b'yisuv v'shalolim. He's not part of society, which Abe, we had a big discussion. What does that mean and what happens lamaisa? We discussed, Abe asked very good questions about, you have certain people that might, it's not that they're involved in negative things, but they might just not understand the way the halach yelech of the world, and they might not be able to testify about things, and they might not know business, so that therefore they might mess up and slip up. And that was, I think we had a Sanhedrin Tana that discussed that issue based on the tour. So the Gemara is commenting on this issue. Amar Rav Avo, Amar Rav Loza. The Gemara is just clarifying halacha who we paskin like. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rav Loza. Kulan tzrichin hachraza bebezdin. What does that mean? All of them need an announcement in bezdin. Hachraza bebezdin, Rashi. Ve'enu nifsalin le'edus ad sheyachrizu bebezdin lohoidia psula. And they are not puzzle, they're not invalid as edim until there's an announcement in bezdin to notify that they are invalid. The Rambam, when he brings down this halacha, the Rambam says that Bezdin is lav dafka, which I don't know how he knew that, but the Rambam says, Bate knesios u bate midrashos. As long as wherever people know about it. Rashi seems to quote the Gemara as Bezdin, literally. So let's read on a little bit just to get a little bit more understanding. And then the Gemara has a machlokes about a roa, about a shepherd. Roa pligi ba ravacha ravina. Chadam or bari achroza v'chadam or loy ba achroza. Bishlam lamanda amr loy ba achroza. I understand according to the shita that holds that a roa, a shepherd, that is puzzled because sometimes he grazes in other people's fields and the animal eats off the other crop, right? That what Bishlam Lamanda Amar Lo Ba'achrozi Hainu Dam Rav Yehuda Amarav Stam Roya Puzzle. That's how we understand Rav Yehuda Amarav, that a roa is puzzle. What do you mean Stam roa is puzzle? Even without an announcement, because Lo Ba'achroza Elamanda Amar Ba'achroza My Stam roa puzzle. So the Gemara says no. The Bistama Machrizan Ale, because we're assuming that most roas they announce about them that they're puzzle. Ha'i Matana Davachasma Ale train Gazlonim. There was a certain shtar about a gift that there were two Eidim that signed the shtar, but these two Eidim were Gazlanim. Savrav Papa Bar Shmuel Lach Shure, the Halo Achrazinan Alayhu. He said the shtar's kosher. Why? Because there was no Hachraza, and you're not Pasal Eidus until you have an announcement, until you have Hachraza. Amr Le Rava Nihida Be'inan Hachraza Begazlan Derabanon. Begazlan de oraisa mi ba'inan hachraza. End of the Gemara. Says the Gemara, that is wrong. We misunderstood everything. Vikulan srichen hachraza is going on what? Is going on our Mishnah, which said many times was what? Was psule edus midrabanon. But if you have a real bona fide gazlan, a psul de oraisa, so that person is pasul even without hachraza. From the Maisa Aveira alone, he becomes pasul. So kasha number one, why should there be a distinction? Where did this whole halacha come from? That psule d'Rabbanan ba'inan achraza. Even within Gzela, you have the same Aveira. It's a Gzela d'Rabbanan versus a Gzela d'Oraisa. A Gzela d'Oraisa, you're pasul from the Maisa Aveira. And a Gzela d'Rabbanan, no, we can machshir the shtar. Why can we machshir the shtar? Because there was no announcement. What do you need an announcement for? Kol the token Rabbanan came d'Oraisa token. The rabbi's announcement should bear all the din d'Oraisa. What's going on with this Gemara? Why is it suddenly that when it comes to these psulim, you need a achraza, you need an announcement? That's ha'ara number one, kasha number one. Kasha number two is an issue that's brought up in Siman Lamed Dalet, in Choshen Mishpat, on this din, the psulei edus. The halacha is, the Mechaber quotes, like the Lashon of the Rambam, Haposam and Atar Shehida Edusab Tela Afal Pishalay Chruzu Alav, like we just learned. Bebate Knesias Bebate Midrashas. Vaposam Devrema Eda Sheid Koidim Shechrizu Alav Ksheira. But in Eid, there was only Posam Rabbanan before there was an announcement, he's kosher. So there's 2 days in the Pischei Tshuva on the following shayla. Is that just in Dinei Mominis? Or does that apply for Isurim as well? Major debate amongst the Poskim. Mamish, you have Achronim and Akotza about this shayla. What should that debate be? The Gemara said, Midrabanan, by a Gazlan, right? You should only be pasul if you need Hachraza. So the truth is, we had a Gemara earlier that the Rishonim discussed this issue of Hachraza. The Gemara earlier discussed a story about Milva Beribis, when we discussed it, all the sugya about loans and ribis, and Daf Chaf Heyam and Aleph. So the Gemara said, right in the middle of the Gemara by Milva Beribis, that Rava told us, Amar Rava Leiva Beribis Pasal Eidus. So the Gemara quotes a story, the next line. Barbaitus aside betrei sade chad amar kami didi oisef beribusa vechad amar ledidi oisef beribusa. And pasle lerava lebarbaitus. There were edim that said barbaitus lent beribis, and Rava pasled them for edus. So the question was, the Rishonim asked, why were they pasul for edus? Then Mukhi Yosef asks, don't we know that all the psulim d'Rabbanan are only pasul once there's hachraza? So it's very nice what these guys are coming and saying, a story that he might have lent beribis, but there was no announcement in Bezdin. And there was no announcement in Shul. So if there's no announcement when it comes to psuli d'Rabbanan, they're not pasul. That was the question that we raised at that point in time, which was the first time we were introduced to this concept that I told you that we would get back to on this issue of hachraza, that for psulim d'Rabbanan, for invalid edus on a level d'Rabbanan, you need an announcement, you need hachraza. So the Mukhi Yosef answers two answers. One answer was, the only reason you need hachraza is mishum pseida de lekuchos. That people shouldn't lose money on other shtaros because they didn't know about it. It was only a psul d'Rabbanan. Over here, it's not going to be pseida lekuchos over here, so therefore it's not going to be a problem. The other answer of the Rishonim is that what? Is that you're right. For any other edus, you need hachraza. But for oso edus, for oso maisa, that you don't need hachraza. And that was what the Gemara was saying. For this case, he's going to be pasul. And in Echanami, for other cases, for him to be established as a psul, you have to rely on the hachraza. So what is the machlekes? Why did the other day not like that idea about lekuchos? So there's a fascinating yisoid that I think could perhaps shed light on all of the issues that we're raising right now. That's brought up in the Gemara later on. Rav Soloveitchik wasn't talking about this, but he made the following diak on a level of the Oraisa. if you look at the Gemara in Sanhedrin on Pei Tassam and Aleph, there is a concept of achraza in biblical level as well.
Which stuff?
Pei Tes. And perhaps we could use this to explain this everything. Now, Rabbi Isai, let's think for a second. If you hold that the only issue of achraza is a technicality, mishum pseida de lekuchos, so then, in which area of halacha would you hold that achraza is necessary? Dinei mamonos. So that l'chayr is the explanation of those achronim in the Pesachei Tshuva that limit this halacha of achraza to dinei mamonos. So what do the other achronim hold? What do they argue with? That they say that it applies to all psulim d'Rabbanan in all areas of halacha. So that's what we're going to try to explain right now. So the Gemara right before the Mishnah says something fascinating. Tana Rabbanan. Right before the Mishnah on Pei Tesem and Alf. Tana Rabbanan. There's two Mishnahs? Oh, I'm sorry, yes. There's right before the wide lines, the Navi Sheker Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan arba'at tzrichin hachraza. There are four people, again, nothing to do with our Gemara, on a level of the Oraisa, that there's a din min HaTorah that you should be machriz them, that everyone should know about what they did. Hamesis, person who convinced another person to get involved in Avodah Zarah. Ben Saira Rumora, a rebellious child. Zaken Mamre, Ve'edim Zaymim. These four individuals need hachraza. This is a biblical halacha. Okay? Why? What is it about these four individuals? So what's fascinating, and it could be I mentioned this years ago, literally years ago, when on Daf Chesam and Beis we were discussing a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos whether or not a mesis gets hasra'ah for his aveira. So there's a Rashi that was mashma that he doesn't get hasra'ah. Tosfos gets very upset at Rashi that doesn't get hasra'ah. So Rav Soloveitchik suggested that's all one issue. A Ben Seir Umayr, we know this from a fact. Everyone knows this. Ben Seir Umayr is nidod al Shem Sofa. Ben Seir Umayr does not get killed because of an aveira that he did. A Ben Seir Umayr has a status of a Ben Seir Umayr, and then he gets killed for whatever reason. Nidam al Shem Sofa. But everyone has to know about this shame Ben Seir Umayr before he's put to death. There has to be an announcement when it comes to this person. Eidim Zoymimim, says Rav Soloveitchik, he's Medayik in the Rambam, right? There's no Hasra, the Gemara says in Ksubas Lamed Gimel, also when it comes to Eidim Zoymimim, right? Because there's no Maisa Aveira when it comes to Eidim Zoymimim either. It's a status of becoming an Eid Zoymim. They're not punished for the action. It's that they did something and now they got a status. That needs hachraza. That needs an announcement. Said Rav Soloveitchik in Shitas Rashi, Mesis doesn't need Asra either. He is not being killed because of his Maisa Avera of his Hasosa. It's rather because of his status of being a Mesis. Memela, he's also added to the list of Arba Tzrichin Achraza, and he doesn't get Hasra, just like the Ben Seira doesn't get Hasra, and just like the Eid Zaymim didn't get Hasra. All of these individuals, said Rav Soloveitchik, are killed not because of their action, but because of who they are and what they stand for, and therefore Kol Am Yisrael should know that these people are being killed, that they should now act as a deterrent and now as a display, so that what you shouldn't become, and that's why they're being put to death, but not because of a classic einish on a Maisa Aveira that would require Hasra and a warning, lahavchin, to now distinguish in a Maisa, lebein shoygig lemezid. Was it on purpose? Was it not on purpose? There is no on purpose or by accident. I didn't do a Maisa Aveira.
They attained the status because of the action.
Oh, that's true. They can't just, it's not magical, right? But it's not those actions that now are required punishment like Chilul Shabbos. That's what Rav Soloveitchik was saying. And therefore, these are singled out, not like any other Maisa Aveira. They need a hachraza before they're put to death. And perhaps they wouldn't even have hasra. And they wouldn't have a warning because it's not classic rules and regulations of a Maisa Aveira that now leads to capital punishment.
What's the Yisru Asava Yishmal
Oh, good. So Vayisru also, that's true. Many Rishonim learn that is a hasra, but it's not exact.
By Rabbi Gamliel, I think Rabbi Yoshua, the one with Yom Kippur, Shechol b'chashbonecha.
Yeah.
Right, so they told him not to become a zaken mamre. What's the hasra?
They told him to not be. Rabbi Gamliel didn't have a zaken mamre.
No, they doesn't say the Berish. They told him, you better listen to Rabbi Gamliel.
Right.
Because you can become a zaken mamre.
Right. And the Gemara says that they become a.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, by Yisro, so I hear the kasha. By Yisro, so but I don't think all the. I think that if I remember correctly, we have to wait till we get to the 8th parak. I think there's a Chazon Ish that discusses whether or not that's classic hasra. I'm not sure that's classic hasra, and for sure there are Rishonim that learn that explain by Yisro, like you're saying, as hasra.
The onus, when you get that status, there's no set time, so, right, it might happen in a minute, it might happen in a day.
What might happen in a minute or a day?
He's now attained that status.
Let's say Adam Zaymim, yeah.
So, he has an opportunity to be metakin to avoid the
No. Once he did it, he did it. Yeah, it's going to happen.
No way to-
It's going to happen. But you have all these other rules that apply to this new status. So that's on a level of deraisa, these 4 categories, and that might affect whether or not you're going to need hasra in these areas. But now when we take it back to the derabbanans, so we could suggest that perhaps on a level of derabbanan, you're not being puzzled because of the Maisa Aveira, but you're getting a shame psul because of a status that now we are putting on you. And therefore, Mamela, it should be, whether it's Dine Mominus or Isurim, we're now shafting the status on this person. We're now setting up a status on this person that needs hachraza. But before the status existed, you never became puzzle. Why? Didn't I violate an Issa D'Rabbanan? Perhaps the answer is that an Issa D'Rabbanan is not like an Issa D'Oraisa. In Issa D'Oraisa, we don't have time to get into this, but in Issa D'Oraisa inherently is much more chomer than an Issa D'Rabbanan. Perhaps when it comes to Isurim D'Oraisa, inherently that carries with it an automatic psul. You don't need an announcement. It's not because of a status, it's because of the Maisa Aveira. You become Pasul Eidus because you did a Maisa Aveira on a level of D'Oraisa that now carries with it a psul. On a level of D'Rabbanan, inherently, there's nothing wrong with the Maisa. Why is a D'Rabbanan Aser? So the Mesech Chachma tells us the D'Rabbanan is Aser because it's a rebellion against what the rabbi said. Inherently, there's no problem with what you did. The Torah doesn't say that action is forbidden. The Torah says listen to the rabbis. If all you did was something that the rabbi said not to do, so then what? So then maybe I'm not really going to be puzzled. You see from Yisurim D'Rabbanan, this is not at the same level. So Memela, for me to be puzzled on a level of D'Rabbanans, you see that halacha is much weaker, so Memela, they perhaps have to create that, and that should apply even to Isurim, not only to Dinei Mamonos. Mirza Hashem, we'll speak about this next time. I don't think we're going to be on next week because there's a community-wide Yom HaAtzmaut event. So Mirza Hashem will be on. Mirza Hashem the next week. We'll build this again when we have more time to get back to this.